Oh, that's a really good question. There are quite a few.
Wow, memorable match. Oh, there's a few that comes up into my mind like that.
I've ever played in.
Probably my British Open match, not this year, gone the year before, against Nino Marola.
Probably British Open last year, tail end of last year, I had a long match with Claire Fahey. We had a 5-setter at Queen's. I think it was just a little under 4 hours. It's certainly the longest singles match I've played.
I was playing particularly badly for the first 2 sets, and he was playing very well. Obviously it was an Open, so it was a big match, and I was 2 sets to love down. I think like 5-1 or 5-2 down. So I mean, looking pretty bleak. I think he had some match points as well.
That was a good fun one. Claire and I both come from Preston, known each other a long time, used to work together, so we had a good battle, and I clearly remember it's because I ended up winning it. I think it was 6-3 in the 5th. Good game.
I managed to keep myself in there out of sheer anger and determination, and managed to pull that set back somehow, and then went on to win 3-2 whilst having to take injury breaks, toilet breaks to try and get rid of my cramp, which isn't allowed, but I'll admit it. And yeah, I was going through, that was like a mental and emotional roller coaster. I think it was about 4.5 hours.
It would have to be my 2012 eliminator at Preston against Bryn, which I won. That was back when it was like a home and away style format. That was my home match.
I think US Open is probably the most memorable. 2012, I think, when I won it.
Yeah, I mean, I basically trained for it, organised it, competed in it, and like my family were up from Dorset, and yeah, it's the first time they've seen me play in something like meaningful. So that would stick out, and the win obviously makes it stick out a bit.
Because I lost the first set to Steve in about 17 minutes, 6-love, and it was like, oh dear. But it was kind of so bad, and it went so quick that I didn't actually lose any energy. So I was like, okay, that's over. And then I managed to win the next 3. I think that was quite cool. Such a contrast of momentum, really.
Well, that's a tough one as well. I mean, I played in a few, but I have to say 2018 Queen's World Championship.
Probably the final eliminator against Camden back in 2010. They went the full 13 sets over 3 days.
Well, first of all, I won when I was unbackable to even get a set. Day 2, just what happened at Queen's. The place kind of caught fire, and it was just a fun thing to be a part of, to be honest.
The first one was, I remember, I had only played real tennis for a couple of months. I was asked to play nationally against Cambridge. I went up, I was all super motivated. Played this guy, I won't say his name, and he beat me 6-love, 6-love. I think the match lasted like 20 minutes, like warm-up time included, and I was like, oh my God.
The first French Open that I played was the first foreign tournament I'd done. I drew Rob in the first round, and it was all kind of super new. I was taking the van down for the first time and stuff like that.
I remember on the way back, this guy drove me back to Queen's Club, and I couldn't speak because I was holding back the tears. I mean, I was just like devastated. He dropped me back at Queen's, and that same night, we went back at 11 o'clock. I just went back on court and just practice. I was so mad.
And ended up playing really nicely. Had a really enjoyable time out on court. No doubt Rob was going easy on me, but that was the first tournament kind of pro thing that I'd done, so that was pretty special.
A year later, I was asked to go up to Cambridge to play National League, and I was like, sure, on one condition. I want to play this guy again. So I did. And I beat him 6-3, 6-4. And that was one hell of a satisfying win because, that proved me that if you put in the work, you can do whatever, you can do anything. And during that match, actually, that guy turned back at the Dodon and said to one of my teammates, he was like, F me, she can play. And the guy was like, yeah.
Probably my biggest win last year was Robert Shenkman, and he knows I'm going to say that as well.
I can't remember what year it was, probably 2018. I think I played Penny Lumley here and was over the moon to come out with a victory against Penny because she's up there.
That was one of the matches that I turned up to thinking that I wouldn't be there for very long in that tournament, and just managed to pull out a win and played really, really well. So that's the one that sticks in my mind recently, yeah.
I had a few in National League last year where I kind of won, having defended match points. I'm around the target now where there's probably 3 or 4 or 5 boys 1 point, 2 points worse, and so it's always a bit of a big needle grudge match. But I did pretty well last year coming back from kind of the edge and pulling back some victories.
The World Doubles Championship in Hobart, and I'd never been into a final. I was desperate to be in a World Championship playing with Rob, and we beat Steve and Chris Chapman 6-5 in the 5th set, and we were 30-15 down at 5-all.
I think winning the recent World Dubs with Claire was a good one.
And I hit 2 of the best shots I'd ever hit. I was a bundle. I don't even know where that came from. I blanked out. I was like, did you hit those, Rob, or was that me? And then somehow we won. It was just like unbelievable. And we were like, oh, we're in the World Championship. That was my most memorable.
But also losing to Izzy Candy in the final of World Champs singles in the semi in Ballarat stuck with me because she played really well there, but I was quite disappointed with that loss.
Memorable match playing my first World Champs final at Fontainebleau at home against Claire. That was nerve-wracking. The feeling of winning in Fontainebleau for World Championship was a great feeling, just in terms of the full picture around it. With a little bit of hindsight, I didn't play that well because I was so consumed by nerves and I wanted to do so well. But that was memorable because the beating was so severe that I was like, okay, right, that got me really motivated to get even closer. Especially after Claire did such a classy speech afterwards, encouraging me to push even higher.
It was last year doubles with Leah against Nicola and Claire. I don't know how, but we managed to win, and we beat Claire and Nicola, and that was amazing. Yeah, very proud of ourselves. Yeah.
Laura Fowler and I used to play a lot of great doubles together, and we were sort of up and coming, just learning how to play.
My first Open victory in doubles with Claire Fahey in the Aussie Open. First US Open victory singles.
And we played a couple of the very well established and very successful Australian women at an Australian Open, and I think we were 5-2 down in the 3rd set, and we managed to clinch a victory.
It was probably the French Open last year against Nicola Dobel. It was my first time overseas in 7 years, and I was, pretty excited to be back out on court and traveling for the first time. Our match went for 2.5 hours. It was an absolute battle. Didn't quite go my way.
There was a Hobart Doubles Club Championship, which was best of 5 sets. We were by far the underdogs, also for about low 20s handicaps, roughly. And my partner was also the same. And we were facing 2 low teen players also.
The most memorable match was the Sears Cup in Boston. And I was working in Boston as the assistant at the time. So it was pretty packed. The galleries, side galleries were full, deadlines were full.
And we had a 3.5 hour 5-set battle and came out on top somehow, which as a 16-year-old or 15-year-old or however old I was, I'd never done anything quite that long. I think I was cramping up towards the end, just on court trying to do a volley or defend a main wall.
We beat Camden and Tony. And I just remember that match with the crowd going wild because Mike Gooden hit 2 winning galleries to win the match. So I think, so that was the most memorable one for me.
And the next was against Freddie Bristow in DC. Managed to win a 6-5, 5-6, 6-3 battle. Who that was definitely memorable for me. Made the trip for sure.
And maybe my 3rd most memorable match, and I promise I'll stop after that because I keep going for a long time. That will be when I first played gold racket in France, which is it's the French national championship. I had a really good match. This is going back a long time now, but against Julian Snow. maybe 2011. We played a big challenge match, kind of male versus female handicap. And it made a whole stir because up until my being here, women were not allowed. So I caused a whole stir trying to enter the tournament. I lost the first, defended set points in the second, and won the third 6-love. So in front of a massive Melbourne crowd, that's why I have such good memories from there. But yeah, that will forever stick in my head as a pretty memorable night. And I was up against one dude that had been against me, and and I was playing not just for me, I was playing my life out there because I said there's so much to prove it. I want to prove that women belong on the court on the same level as men. So that first round, which I managed to win 3-1, that was such an important and memorable win.
It's interesting because the most memorable are without doubt the losses that I didn't want to lose, for sure.
I feel like, I'm just at the beginning of my career still, couple years on the tour, but the most memorable and painful one would be Champions Trophy last year at Hampton Court, losing in 5 to Darren Long.
My match against Jamie Douglas at Lord's in July, the gold racket final, was 4 hours. I gave it everything. I lost, but 6-5 in the 5th.
It's my first time going over 3 sets. I think it ended up being like best part of 4 hours. When you put that much effort in, kind of concentration-wise and physically, and then you come off on the losing end, it's a painful one, and you certainly remember it.
It was definitely memorable, like bittersweet in a way, to lose. But Lord's is a great place. I love my cricket, and always wanted to play in that gold racket final. And the fact it went 4 hours, 5 sets, definitely the most memorable match.